Okay, YouTube channel is live.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Okay, you can begin the meeting, Chris.
Perfect. Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. This is a regular meeting for the Baldwin Park Planning Commission for April 22nd, 2020. At this time, Commissioner Garrido, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I'll go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody can just stay muted and just follow after me by placing your hand over your heart, your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. At this time, Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Thank you. Chair Christopher Stein,
Present.
Vice Chair Edwin Borges, Vice Chair Edwin Borges,
Present.
Commissioner Edith Flores,
Present.
Commissioner Christopher Garrido,
Present.
Commissioner Marlene Garcia.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to move to public communications. Esther, have you received any comments from any community members?
No comments have been received, sir.
Noted. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to consent calendar. Item number 1, action minutes from April 8th, 2020. I just noticed, I think one minor correction. So within the minutes, under consent calendar, so item 1 as well. I think so. Right after Commissioner Garcia, it says Garrido, so we just have to strike that. And then on the seconded, it is correct. So it's just the first line of action. So I hope you understand what I'm asking. So do we have a... Yes.
Can you repeat that again for me, please?
Yes. So within the minutes, under consent calendar, and then from minutes from March 11th, 2020. So it was moved by Commissioner Garcia, but right after Commissioner Garcia, it has like a double last name, Garcia Garrido. So we just have to strike Garrido. It's just that Commissioner Garrido did second it. And it does indicate that on the line below, but on that action, approved 5-0, moved by Commissioner Garcia Garrido, just remove that additional last name.
Thank you. Noted.
So do we have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended?
This is Commissioner Garcia. I make a motion to adopt the minutes as amended.
Commissioner Borges, second.
Great. At this time, Commissioner Garcia moved, Commissioner Borges second. Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Chair Pro Tem Christopher Stein.
Yes.
Commissioner Edwin Borges.
Yes.
Commissioner Edith Flores.
Yes.
Commissioner Christopher Garrido.
Yes.
And Commissioner Marlene Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Action minutes from April 8th, 2020 adopted 5-0. So we're going to move on. Set matters, public hearing. Item number 2, a request for approval of conditional use permit to allow operation of a church within an existing 2,030 square foot tenant space. The project is located within the industrial zone, location 13131 Brooks Drive, Unit A. Applicant Expedito Baguno, case number CP 20-03. Mr. Ron Garcia.
Yes, Associate Planner Melissa Chipris will be providing the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable members of the commission. Let's see, David, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Before you this evening is conditional use permit application CP 20-03 that is requesting approval to allow a church use within an existing 2,030 square foot tenant space, and the project is located within the I industrial zone. Next slide, please. On February 13th, 2020, applicant Expedito submitted the said conditional use permit application to the planning division. The proposed church, known as Transform SGV Church, was operating in the city of West Covina and is now planning to relocate to an industrial office park located at Rivergate Road and Brooks Drive in the city of Baldwin Park. A business operations plan that indicates the number of staff, hours of administrative operations, and Sunday service hours has been provided to you in your agenda packets. Next slide, please. So here we have the site plan provided by the applicant. You can see that they are going to be moving into Unit A, and the highlighted red areas are proposed parking, which I will get to in just a moment. Next slide, please, David. The applicant intends to submit plans to Building and Safety for tenant improvements to allow for a 356 square foot children's room, a 147 square foot office, and 2 77 square foot restrooms, and a 1,324 square foot worship sanctuary. Can you go back one slide, David? In regards to parking, new churches are required to provide 1 parking space for every 3 fixed seats. The applicant is proposing 30 fixed seats, requiring them to provide a minimum of 10 off-street parking spaces for the new church. And the applicant is proposing 14 parking spaces, making them compliant with the Baldwin Park Municipal Code's parking requirements. Next slide, David, please. And one more. Thank you. So to conclude, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission approve Resolution PC 20-11 to approve CP 20-03. Also, the applicant is also in the meeting for any questions.
Great, thank you, Melissa. At this time, is there any questions of staff?
Chairman Sines?
Yes, Commissioner Borges.
What, the surrounding, the building adjacent and the surrounding units, are they vacant? Are there businesses in there? Staff?
There are current businesses. They vary. Some are office uses. I believe there is a trade school located within the area as well. So they are being occupied by current tenants with a number of different uses.
And I'm just curious, I'd like to ask this Commissioner Board, because I'd like to ask the applicant what kind of church will be in that unit.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, my name is Lenti Baguno. It's gonna be a Christian church, and we are mostly operating only on Sunday. We are under the Southern California Assemblies of God denomination network.
Thank you so much for the information. I appreciate it. So will there be just service on Sundays, or will you have also additional days during the week for worship?
No. No, we are just a brand new church, and we normally don't have any activity during the weekdays, and that place is just intended for Sunday and a minimal Saturday, but only for like a prayer meeting of like probably less than 10 people.
Thank you for participating and for the information. I appreciate it.
Oh, very much welcome, sir.
Commissioners, any additional questions before opening up the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Garrido. I do have one question. I know this stated about the operating businesses around it. Do we know if there's any of the operating businesses that are around it that are, because there's going to be children and stuff nearby, anything like that deals with anything that could be potentially, I don't want to say harmful, but something to that nature, in the surrounding businesses.
So to staff's knowledge, we don't know exactly all the different uses, but it is an office industrial park. So typically businesses that would go into there are administrative or office uses. It doesn't look like there's any like auto repair or any such uses where they have to conduct business outside. It looks like everybody, for the most part, stays within their respective tenant space.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any additional questions before opening up the public hearing? Seeing no additional questions, I now open up the public hearing. Esther, have we received any questions or comments from the public?
None submitted, sir.
Thank you very much. So I guess this might be a question for Ron, but I don't exactly have a map of the current development, active development agreements for I guess cannabis use. But I think that a church would probably be a sensitive use. Is there anything in that area that would anything that I guess any active development agreements that would not allow for this church?
That is a very, very good question. If you can hold on 1 second while I pull up the map on my computer. Commissioner Sands, that's a very good question. In looking at the map, it would be a good idea for staff to further look at that. I mean, one alternative could be that we postpone this item until the next meeting. So that way staff can thoroughly look at all the cannabis uses in that, if there are any cannabis uses in that area. It would take up a little too much time to do that exercise now to answer that question firmly.
Noted. Thank you, Ron, for answering that question. I think that, so I don't know if I closed the public hearing, but this time I closed the public hearing. I moved to move this item to our next meeting. If I have a second, I think we should move on to a vote.
This is Commissioner Garcia. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So just to catch up here, is the cannabis use now considered something that we need to look at before we approve any projects of this nature?
Yes, Commissioner Garcia, that is a very good question. Yes, from what I can see, it's approximately outside of the buffer, especially because churches are allowed conditionally in all zones. And it is a good question because we don't want to we don't want this to be a problem, especially when we're dealing with sensitive uses such as religious facilities. But from what I can see, the closest cannabis use is outside of the 600-foot sensitive buffer distance. But again, it's an approximation. I'd like to look at it further so that way we can confirm that it is outside. And that's something that potential cannabis operators would have to be looking at, which is something we do look at. For this one in particular, it is close, and we don't want to make any other cannabis, if there are any other cannabis uses. From what I can see, I can only see one non-conforming. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Does the applicant, I'm sorry, is the applicant aware of that? I mean, I'm sure he is now because he's listening, but prior to submitting the application?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah.
Chairman Sines, I probably have some input for Commissioner Garcia as it relates to her question, if I may.
Yes, please. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome. Commissioner Garcia, so the answer about whether or not we have to look at this when we're approving all of these projects, this is kind of a unique situation because we do have cannabis companies in the commercial industrial zone. So if a church is looking to go into a commercial industrial zone, then as the case is here, then yes, that is something that we would need to look at. If the church is going into a residential zone, as some of them are in, closer to residential areas, then we would not have to look at this in this kind of detail. The other thing is, it's not clear to me from a legal perspective that the church could not waive this, even if there was a problem. Because
Thank you.
remember,
Yeah, I was going to ask that next. Would there be a possibility the church could sign something, say, we're okay with that?
yes, ma'am, I believe that would be okay. I'm talking off the top of my head, so we'd have to research it before the next meeting. But my hunch is this, from just thinking about it logically. The cannabis companies had to get clearance through the state and through the city based on the sensitive use setback. They did that. And when they went in there were no sensitive uses within the buffer area. So
Right.
Therefore, they were legal and conforming when they went in. So now here comes the church. They also have a right to be there, but they have this sensitive, well, that's not a sensitive use, but they have this cannabis business there. So I believe because of the way that it's worked, in other words, if it was the opposite way, then no, I don't think it could be waived because the cannabis company could not waive that buffer zone. They have to have the buffer zone. But because it's the church coming in, I believe they probably could waive that buffer zone, but that would be up to the commissioners about and the staff about whether or not we're within that zone, and then have to look into that legal analysis.
I think it's worth looking into because we might run into this again.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. You're right about that. We should look at this so that we know what the answer is. So Commissioner Garcia, I will look into this and bring back an answer to the next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Robert and Commissioner Garcia. So Ron, I guess at this time, I'm going to make the motion to move this item to our next meeting. But I guess next meeting we have one of two options. One of either hopefully it's outside of the buffer zone and we can adopt the resolution as is, or maybe giving if it's not within, or if it's within the 600 feet, giving the applicant the option to waive the right to the buffer zone. That way we can, I'd hate to make the applicant wait much longer than our next meeting.
Correct. The next planning commission would be May 13th, but as the city attorney stated, it's probably best that we continue the item till that meeting date. Robert, do you concur?
I agree that we should do that to make sure that when we do this, we do it correctly, whether there needs to be a waiver, doesn't need to be a waiver, that sort of thing. So I would.
Yeah. And from what, as I mentioned, from what I can see, it's outside of the buffer. The buffer is it's right outside of it. It's not close, but it's right outside. But I would like to do the due diligence and confirm.
Noted. Thank you very much. So at this time, I make a motion to move this item to our next meeting, May 13, 2020. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Garrido, I'll second it.
Thank you. So at this time, Madam Secretary.
Chairman Sines, before you do that vote, I want to make sure that you did open the public hearing and ask for those in favor, ask for those again. I did hear you close the public hearing, but I wasn't sure that you had gone through those other steps. Did you do that?
I did, and I had asked Esther for comments, but I'm more than happy to open it up again. I don't know if I used those exact words. So I think at this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Esther, do we have any comments either in favor or against?
No comments in favor or against.
Noted. So at this time, I'll close the public, or excuse me, at this time, I'll close the public hearing and make a motion to move this item to our next meeting, May 13, 2020. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Garrido, I will second.
Noted. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Chair Christopher Stein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Edwin Borkus,
Yes.
Commissioner Edith Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Christopher Garrido,
Yes.
and Commissioner Marlon Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you.
So at this time, the item has been moved to our next meeting. We'll move on to the next matter, number 3, a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a warehouse facility in an existing building located within the industrial zone, location 5125 Elton Street, units 4 and 5, applicant Rosemary Williams, Pepperidge Farm Distributor, case number CP 20-05, Mr. Ron Garcia.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the commission. Again, the applicant, Rosemary Williams, for Pepperidge Farms Distribution, is requesting approval of a CUP for a warehouse facility within the I zone, within an existing multi-tenant building. Next slide. Dave? Thank you. The general plan land use designation of the subject property is general industrial, and the subject site is zone industrial. The site in question is located at 5125 Elton Street, just south of Arrow Highway. Overall, the subject property is a little under 25,000 square feet, is rectangular in shape, and was developed with the 9,990 square foot multi-tenant industrial building. As you can see here, there's an aerial, there's Elton on the east and Arrow Highway to the north. Next slide, Dave. A total of 9 units exist within the building. The surrounding zone designations, again, are all industrial to the south, east, and west, and industrial commercial to the north. Next slide, Dave. Currently, there are no proposals to make alterations to the site or any interior alterations. Approximately 2,140 square feet of the building area, units 4 and 5, will be used by the applicant for warehousing. The applicant proposes to use the existing building as a distributor for Pepperidge Farm cookie products. The hours of operation proposed are Monday through Friday between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. The applicant indicated that the proposed distribution warehouse facility will operate 3 trucks to distribute the product. The trucks will distribute product 2 times a day, 5 days a week. With similar industrial commercial uses in the area, staff believes that there will not be adverse impacts to the adjacent properties as a result of the proposed warehouse facility. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt PC Resolution 2012 approving the conditional use permit 20-05. Before I conclude, unfortunately, the applicant could not be present at this meeting. The applicant indicated there was a death in the family and unfortunately couldn't be present, but wanted me to convey that to the commission. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions with respect to the proposed use.
Thank you very much, Ron. At this time, is there any questions of staff? So, Ron, I have a question. I know that this particular case, it's conforming use, but in a warehouse facility, is there any distinction between like it kind of looked like from the aerial view that there's like a mechanic shop next door, and this facility is going to be warehousing like food product. Is there anything in the code that looks at the type? Like I know that this is considered a warehouse and not like a kitchen, but is there anything that kind of like differentiates like uses of like within like subcategories within the industrial zone?
It doesn't. It's a general. So, for example, it doesn't itemize the specific types of or different types of like manufacturing uses, right? Because you could have a whole number of different types of manufacturing uses and warehouse. It's general in the zoning code as far as the permitted and non-permitted uses within the I and the IC zone. So for this use, given that they're a warehouse distribution, this use is allowed along with the other uses that you see within the surrounding area. And again, there's light manufacturing, heavy and industrial uses all coexist within with each other. Again, with this, it's just a general warehouse. If we were hypothetically potentially this could be a warehouse for, let's say, furniture, right? It would still require the conditional use permit. But to answer your question, it does not specifically notate the different types of warehouse what types of warehouse uses, whether it's food uses, furniture uses, but it does not.
Noted. Thank you very much. So at this time, is there any additional questions of staff? Seeing no questions, at this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Madam Secretary, have we received any comments either in favor or against this proposal?
No comments have been received, sir.
Noted. Thank you very much. So at this time, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, any additional questions? Seeing no questions, do we have a motion? Excuse me. Actually, I'll move to adopt Resolution PC 20-12, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Baldwin Park adopting the findings of fact and approving a conditional use permit for a warehouse facility within an existing building pursuant to Table 153.050.020 in the city's municipal code, location 5125 Elton Street, Unit 4 and 5, applicant Rosemary Williams, Pepperidge Farm Distributor, case number CP 20-05. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Noted. So moved by myself, seconded by Commissioner Garcia. At this time, Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Chair Christopher Stein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Edwin Borges,
Yes.
Commissioner Edith Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Christopher Garrido,
Yes.
and Commissioner Marlon Garcia.
Yes, and I look forward to sampling some of those cookies.
I will be sure to share that with Rosemary.
Thank you.
So at this time, the resolution has been adopted 5-0. Wishing Rosemary much success. At this time, we're going to move on to public comment. So Esther, have you received any additional comments since we began the meeting?
No comments have been received, sir.
Noted. Thank you very much. So at this time, I'm going to move to reports of officers.
Yes, the only thing I have to report is, again, as we have a planning commission meeting scheduled for May 13th. We have a couple items on that agenda for your consideration.
Thank you very much. At this time, Commission, any questions, comments?
Chair Sines.
Yes, Commissioner Marquez.
Ron, is there a chance that we will be back in the city council chambers for May 12th, or that's absolutely out of the question?
As it stands right now with the stay-at-home order, we will have another virtual meeting on May 13th. If anything does happen until then, I will be sure to advise and inform the commission if it is that we'll be having a meeting in the council chambers. But as of now, we're planning on having another virtual planning commission meeting.
Thank you.
So this time, wanted to wish a happy belated birthday to both Commissioner Borges and Commissioner Garrido. Hope you guys are staying safe.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Yes,
Happy birthday.
Edwin.
Yes, we will all celebrate. I don't care how long after one of our meetings soon.
I'm there.
Yes, thank
That's
you. Marlon.
awesome. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great. So Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Thank you, Chair. Christopher Sines,
Yes.
Vice Chair Edwin Borges,
Yes.
Commissioner Edith Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Christopher Garrido,
Yes.
Commissioner Marlon Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you.
So at this time, meeting's adjourned, 7:34 p.m. Everybody stay safe, take care, and we'll all speak soon.
Thank you.
Viva Baldwin Park.
Viva
Baldwin
Baldwin
Park.
Park.
Viva.
Take
Stay
care,
safe, everybody.
commissioners. We will have a beer and a shot soon. I'm going stir crazy.